If you're looking to create, grow, and sustain your wealth, download and subscribe to the Pain Points of Wealth podcast at BeBullish.com with Bob, Ryan, and Chris Payne. It's your podcast for market insights, money tips, and real talk on the economy. Download and subscribe at BeBullish.com.
Excuse me! Taxi!
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
And you guys, speaking of Iran, John, we have former Deputy National Security Advisor under President Trump, KT McFarland. KT, huge news today that Russia is providing intel to Iran, telling them where our U.S. carriers are and where U.S. troops are. This is, no surprise of the allegiance, but it sounds like they're really playing a big role potentially.
I'm not so concerned about this. I would be surprised if the Russians weren't doing something. I mean, they're certainly not helping Iran militarily. Maybe they're sharing some intelligence. A lot of that intelligence you can really pick up on open sources about where ships are. But I'm not terribly concerned. In effect, Iran has been left homeless because China, who buys almost all of Iran's oil, they're not helping in any way. Russia, okay, so maybe they're sharing some intelligence. But again, I think that right now Iran is so isolated in the region. All the countries in the region have turned against Iran, in part because of Iran's stupidity of attacking them. But the foreign powers that were supporting Iran, remember, 6 months ago, that huge alliance of Iran and Russia and China and North Korea, well, that's crumbled. It crumbled in Venezuela, and it certainly has crumbled now with Iran.
Yeah, what about China, too? It's interesting. We haven't heard too much about, of course, China, as you brought up, as sort of the other tentacle there. What do you think they may or may not be doing?
China is a big loser. The great thing about Donald Trump is he plays four-dimensional chess. Not even three-dimensional chess, four-dimensional chess, five-dimensional chess. So initially, what is this all about, the Iran war? Stopping their nuclear program, stopping their intercontinental ballistic missile program. The next level of it is to prevent a continued war in the Middle East. But then there's another level of it, which is to secure the world's oil supply, now increasingly under United States, if not control, American domination, whether it's American energy, Venezuelan energy, our Gulf Arab partners, even though we don't control them, they're very close to us, and now potentially Iran. Now, who's the big loser in all of this? And that's the real fourth dimension, and that's China. China has invested heavily, a lot of money, a lot of effort in Iran and in Venezuela as sources of China's imported oil. China buys almost all of Iran's oil, legal or otherwise, and the same with Venezuela. That's all gone now. So China is left alone. China has to import energy to fund and cheap energy, discounted energy, to fund their manufacturing. And they certainly need to import it, even more exponentially import it, with the advent of artificial intelligence and quantum computing, which requires so much more energy.
KT, President Trump did the right thing. The reason for World War II, and Ed Cox is sitting here too, it was because that we cut Japan off from all oil. President Trump smartly made a statement the other day that China could have all the oil they want. We will supply them. I mean, they're going to pay regular price versus maybe buy more oil from Russia where they get that 30-40% discount.
Yeah, China needs the discount. That's how it stays so competitive, is they got cheap energy from these other countries. So they're not getting that anymore. Now, they'll get all, at the end of the day, China because it needs energy and Russia because it needs so much money to pay for the Ukraine war. China is going to end up owning most of Russia's energy supplies. I think they'll own eastern Siberia, a lot of the energy so Russia will be nothing but pumping oil and natural gas, selling it at a discount to China, so China helps Russia pay for the Ukraine war. But at the end of the day, this is so many dimensions of what President Trump is doing. And then he's also extremely good at taking advantage of an opportunity that presents itself. So, for example, Iran cannot defend itself, right? There's no air defense system left. So America is really shooting fish in a barrel. Any bombers, any missiles, any drones going into Iran, there's no defense against them. We can shoot down and kill whatever we want, destroy whatever we want. We have no they have no defense. What they do have, though, is retaliatory capability. They have a lot of missiles. They can shoot those missiles off. So instead of just shooting them off at Israel or the United States, they started shooting them off at the Gulf Arab countries, Abu Dhabi, UAE. So what do those countries do? I guess the Iranians thought that, well, if they can fire missiles into the Abu Dhabi hotels, Abu Dhabi will not join the fight. Just the opposite has happened. So all these countries have now rallied around and are fighting with Israel and the United States against Iran. But what I'm really excited about is and John, I'd love to hear John's take on this, is the insurance market, right? If all the ships that are going through the Strait of Hormuz have to be insured, and if Lloyd's of London and the British is the main shipping insurer in the world, and if the Brits aren't doing it, and President Trump just said, we'll do it, we'll pay for it, we'll insure them, is this a play for the United States to become now one of the major insurance capitals of the world? What
President Trump is doing is he's also escorting the cargo ships through the Strait of Hormuz, daring the terrorists to do something about it. And he'll go in there, and I guarantee that, I know President Trump, you know President Trump, he's going to go in there and level. If a single missile comes to any of those cargo ships, he will level an entire area, and those terrorists, you say, good night, Charlie.
The way we're now attacking them and destroying their missile sites is if they shoot off a missile, we can see it come out of the ground, that the hatch opens, the missile comes out, it goes on its way. We see the hatch opening, and then we can destroy that missile launcher. So that missile launcher doesn't get to shoot the second missile. So and that is, we are working our way down the target list. I was initially very concerned that what President Trump would do is just what people were encouraging, have a regime change, get rid of the Ayatollah, and then hope for the best. No, he's going in a biblical proportion. I mean, it's salt the earth. This is really raising everything. It's not just getting rid of the senior leadership in the military and in the political leadership. It is going after the command and control sites. They've sunk the Iranian Navy. It's going after the missile production plants. It's going after all the nuclear sites, the enrichment sites, the missile sites, the missile development factories. So they are really just leveling the place.
Yeah. And I like the fact that, I think Saudi Arabia is going to become almost the chairman of the board of all the Arab nations to help run Iran in the future and make sure that everything is done right.
If you could guess what would have happened after they got rid of Maduro in Venezuela, who would have thought that the United States is having the Secretary of the Interior and other senior officials of the United States are standing with the former Maduro vice president, who's now the president, Delcy Rodriguez, and she's saying America's a great country. We're really looking forward to American investment and development of the Venezuelan oil fields. You would have thought that was nuts. I think that what's going to happen by the end of President Trump's term is he's going to go to Havana, at a pro-American Cuba, Havana. I think he's going to go to Venezuela, a pro-American Venezuela, and I think he's also going to go to a pro-American Tehran.
Well, Cuba, any day now or any week now. I mean, they can't send Canadian Airlines to Cuba because they don't have any fuel to give them to leave. So their tourist business just fell apart.
And so what's happening is apparently the leadership of Cuba, which I think has been dismissed by a lot of the American officials as just factotums. But Marco Rubio is having personal phone calls with the grandson of the nominal head of Cuba, Castro. But the Castro grandson is talking to Marco Rubio. They're age contemporaries. I think the grandson may be 10 years younger. But they're speaking in Spanish. They're speaking in Cuban Spanish. And they're talking about what the prospects could be if the Cuban government throws off the shackles of the communist dictators.
KT,
and that, to me, is going to happen soon.
We're out of time. We love you. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk again real soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you're looking to create, grow, and sustain your wealth, download and subscribe to the Pain Points of Wealth podcast at BeBullish.com with Bob, Ryan, and Chris Payne. It's your podcast for market insights, money tips, and real talk on the economy. Download and subscribe at BeBullish.com.